Ahoy hoy! It's Chris Shredfield here, and my co-host...
That's
not a...
It's me!
That's not a...
Moreau!
No, you can't just...
Bro!
You can't just call yourself Moreau, you gotta come up with, like, a sexy pun.
Yeah, Moreau the bro, that's sexy, isn't it?
Moreau the bro... Oh, that's not bad. Okay, I didn't quite hear you over Discord, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Discord, likes to fuck up occasionally. I'm sorry. There's not much I can do about that. Okay. I'm gonna bring this up now, because it will come up later. Whether we want it to or not, it's gonna come up. Did we want to get it out of our system now?
I was actually looking to avoid using the word milkers for today.
Oh, I'm not referring to that. I'm referring to the thing that we've been doing since literally before the game came out.
Oh, no, we can leave Chris posting out of this.
Can we?
It's a dark place.
Can we? I don't think that's possible. Alright, well, I tell you what, if it comes up, it comes up. If not, well, then, like, something's happened to us. Something bad. We should probably go to the doctors afterwards. If it doesn't come up.
We're pregnant.
I'm pregnant with Moreau's
Claire Bear's child.
No, or Claire Bear, even. Alright,
anyway.
How's it going, y'all?
It's a fucking train wreck.
It's always a train wreck. It's no different. If it's not a train wreck, that's a train wreck. So yes, we're going to be talking about Resident Evil Village today. And just before we start that, I got a drink. I found this at the local shit mart that we have in Australia. It's known as... The shit marts in Australia are known as Drake's. I know that America, it's Walmart for like the shitty grocery stores, but ours is called Drake's. And they were selling these really weird drinks.
Which is a subsidiary of Foodland.
That doesn't surprise me. Although Foodland's like the classier, like, South Australian, like, food chain, I guess. No, well, yeah. When I say classy, I mean in comparison to Drake's. Drake's is garbage, and there's bogans in it all the time.
It's like Foodland to Drake's is Woolworths to Coles.
See, Americans aren't going to understand what that means.
Okay, New Zealanders will, though.
Yeah, but how many people do we... New Zealand?
I'd rather have one New Zealander to every 4 Americans to keep chat in a nice place.
Okay, but I think the New Zealanders are too busy polishing wood and wrestling sheep to watch our shitty little internet review show. But maybe I'm wrong. Fair. I don't know. But okay, point is, I bought this because it's really not a Resident Evil reference, but it's a Silent Hill reference, which is close enough. It's called a revival drink, which is almost like in Silent Hill they're called health drinks. So I thought, okay. It's really just juice with extra vitamins and shit, and it's got a really weird name. It's called Feelin' Seedy. Which is probably not what you want to call...
That is not a good name.
But it actually does taste pretty good. I got the raspberry flavor. So I'm going to drink this. I'm going to drink this revival drink, and that is going to fill me with like the good, like, it's going to give me health. It's going to give me the health that I need to discuss this game with you today, my friend. Okay.
Oh boy. See, it reminds me, actually, I see a drink where it's like a tiny little vial of something, and it's called a gut shot. And every time I'm like, why would you pick up a gut shot and go, I'm gonna drink this?
Well, that's what energy drinks were before they were sold in like 500 milliliter cans. They were just like little, like mini, like, not bottles exactly, just little mini, like, cans, I guess, of just straight, like taurine and bullshit. That
Jesus.
Its specific purpose was, hey, are you a working person that needs to just wake the fuck up right now? Yeah, wake the fuck up. Which, again, this is the tangent hour for a second. I, at work this week, encountered something new. Some of my co-workers were telling me how when they need to wake themselves up, they drink water with pepper and salt sprinkled onto it.
Oh.
Yeah, they asked me to try it, and I said very much no, thank you. I don't want to try that. McDonald's staff workers are fucking weird.
Gee, damn.
Yeah.
I have no words.
Also,
and
yes,
I must scream.
Nice. Also, yesterday marked the second time in my life where a woman pinched my butt. However, this time it was an accident, so that was fun.
Oh.
But anyway, so yes, enough fucking talking about nothing. So we have both played Resident Evil Village. I played it.
And completed it.
And completed it even, yes, which is surprising, because I should preface this review for those that, aren't, they don't know our histories. I'm not a Resident Evil veteran. I've been playing it for about as long as is possible for someone my age. But yes, I'm quite familiar with the Resident Evils. 4 is an excellent game. Nathan, however, you've only played a couple, and this is the first one you've played through to the end, right?
Yeah, I've played 4 on stream with you. I thought it was, it's one of those things where I retroactively think the design decisions are good. They're just not ones that I enjoy. 2, Remake, I enjoyed the police station bit, and then it just kind of lost steam for me. Once I stopped that PlayStation, once I stopped that play session, I was like, you know what? I just never came back. I've been considering it though. After playing Village, I've been considering reinstalling.
Remake 2 has issues. I still think it's a good game, and I understand why it's probably one of the more popular in the series, but it does have issues. Particularly the goddamn adaptive
sewers?
Difficulty pisses me off. No, the sewers I can get past. It is kind of a boring environment, but the gameplay's still the same. Although, except minus one of the friends that is the highlight of the game doesn't show up there. Which is pretty lame, but there's others. Look, I didn't hate all of the sewer section like you seem to. There was parts of it that I did like about it. Like the big monster dudes. I liked them. Even though they were very Resident Evil sort of enemies. I like Resident Evil enemies, so I had fun with it.
And I played through, I think, most of 7. I think it's what I've read of the plot is with, after that ship bit, that you go back to the house, and that's, the end of the game, pretty much. So,
another thing we should preface this review by saying is that back when we were streaming consistently, we were playing Resident Evil 7, because Nathan was playing Resident Evil 7. I made him start it because I wanted him to play it before 8. I wanted him to play it and finish it before 8, because Resident Evil 7 was at the time my second favorite in the series, and that's rare for someone who plays a lot of the Resident Evil games. I've noticed that fans tend to have mixed feelings on the 7th one. People who just
in the gaming discussion circles, I've noticed a recent trend of hating 7 and putting 6 up as a good game. That sounds that's dumb.
This is the fandom. This is the fandom syndrome of old people want to feel like they're elders of shit, and this is why you also get Star Wars fans who say the prequels are good and the sequel trilogy are bad. Look, if you don't like the sequels, that's fair. You have many absolutely valid reasons to believe that. However, one thing you aren't correct about is the idea that the prequels are in any way better than the sequels. The prequels are goddamn atrocious, and they deserve to be put in a fire, because they're terrible. You haven't seen them, and you shouldn't. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, no, it's, but here's the thing. Resident Evil fans can have mixed opinions on Resident Evil 7. People who just play video games, I've noticed, tend to like the game. I really like 7. I thought it had probably the best story in the series up to that point. I liked its twists. I liked its reveals. Do you know the twists and reveals of 7? Or do I need to tell them to you? Because I know you don't give a shit about spoilers.
No, okay, so here's my attempt of recapping the plot of 7. So, Evelyn controls mold. And she was on the boat that the Connections people were trying to transport her.
Yes.
Mia works with Connections.
Yes.
Evelyn breaks out, destroys the boat, and then just wants a family. So
I should say that Evelyn is the creepy little girl in 7.
Yeah, she's the creepy girl. Yeah. And then she just wants a family, so she picks up Mia, says, you can be, mom or some shit, the Baker family find the boat.
The Bayou
and then
family,
Evelyn's like, you know what? You can join the fam as well. All of the Baker family are, like, pretty much just prisoners of Evelyn, and they're like, oh, we don't like eating mold for dinner and cutting off each other's hands, but we kind of just have to.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
That's all you really know?
That's my understanding of it. It's like, and then you kill Evelyn, Mia's fine for some reason. You're both mold people. Well,
okay, I'm not gonna say what it is, but there is a reveal in 7 of revolving around Evelyn that I really enjoyed. I'm not gonna take that away from you because we'll probably get back to 7 when we can. I know why people bitch about the boat bit, but frankly, you're close to finishing it anyway. And like, yeah, you're right. Then you go back to the house, and it's still the same game for the most part. But yeah, good game. Now 8's come out. I was really excited to play 8. I and I'm ashamed to say this, I pre-ordered it the day before, specifically because I wanted to pre-install it, but apparently that wasn't an option. I wasn't, as much as I hate pre-order culture, I wasn't about to refund it just so I could buy it again the next day. So
the only good thing about pre-order culture is preloading.
Yeah, that's
preloading is pog.
I'm of the opinion that you should be actually, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I was going to say that you should be able to load a game before you buy it, but I feel like piracy people might be able to abuse that system now that I'm actually thinking about it.
Yes.
Well, I mean, they were going to buy it and then fucking, like, piracy it anyway, so they could have just... It's fine.
Look, let's be honest. The people who are going to pirate the game aren't going to be preloading it on Steam. They're going to be preloading it on whatever torrent service they use.
Well, you know, it is what it is. But yeah.
But anyway, 12 minutes in, let's talk about RE8.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I was super excited to play it. I got home from work, an 8-hour shift, and just I installed it and played it immediately because that was the day it came out, and I managed in my first session to get up to about halfway through the Lady D section. And at that point, I was really, really, really impressed with the game. I really liked the first like big village lichen attack. And you're gonna love this pun. Liken it to the village raid in 4, because they like it.
I think I've actually read that in an article.
Well, so. I mean, it's pretty obvious that that's the kind of like vibe they're going for with that bit. But I think it did work because again, it was a different setting anyway. It'd been ages since. Like, the Resident Evil games have tried to emulate that one other time, and that was with 5, and it wasn't the same. And you've actually played that sequence. You played that with me. Remember that bit where I kept dying when we were in that house to begin with?
Yes.
It was very clearly going for that same vibe.
I hate 5.
I was having fun. I wanted to finish 5 with you.
I hate 5.
It's not a very good game, granted.
Can we not talk about 5?
Yeah.
I hate 5.
Right,
I like 8. I really like 8.
I also really liked 8. Yeah, no, because here's the thing. I always make a point not to look too much at the marketing. I'd known that it was going to have some Resident Evil 4 in it because I'd seen the Fat Merchant Man, who we'll get to later. But I was like, so I was aware that it was going to be, it's a bit like, it's RE7 with some RE4 in it. I'm cool with this. What I didn't know about was the werewolves. And when the first one pops up, and it's zipping about, and it's like, it's dodging, and it's like acting like semi-intelligently. It's still like a creature trying to kill me, but it's not like a really dumb, slow, amorphous mass of just bullet sponge.
They can, compared to RE7's enemies, where they are quite literally just fat, like, black snot blobs that run at you. RE8 enemies quite literally can ride horses. They only do it in a cutscene, though.
That's a shame, yeah. That would have been a fun enemy type.
But, they are, the what's it called? The AI takes... Well, for the general, like, fodder mob enemies... The AI is quite a large step up.
Yeah, because, like, I think everyone is in agreement that, like, RE7's biggest problem was the molded. Because they're just not, they're not interesting, they're not scary. They're just, bullet spongy things to shoot at when, you know, they have to break up the
They're literally
baker
just
encounters.
bullet taxes. They're just bullet taxes, and there's like, oh cool, there's 2 bullet taxes down here.
Yeah, which, I mean, they're not so bad that they make me hate the game, but they really are the thing that drag that game down the most. And it's a shame.
Yeah,
because
they contrast pretty hard as well, because like the Baker family is pretty interesting.
Yeah,
and then you contrast that with just something so not interesting that it makes the low so much lower.
I was actually thinking about this after I'd finished RE8 for the first time. That, you know, because the thing about, there's a lot of enemy types in RE8, and I think that's one of the best things about RE8 as compared to RE7 is that there's a shitload of enemy variety, and it's great. I love enemy variety. Keep it up. And it was, like, setting appropriate enemy types, so it got me thinking about RE7 and how I'd improve that game. There should have been corrupted animals in that game, dude, because they were in the swamp. That would have been cool. Like, imagine, like, a fucking alligator charging at you.
I was more thinking you could go into some of the more, like, weird folklore-y stuff, like a skinwalker or something.
Or a Wendigo. Hell yeah.
You could have gone pretty nuts with it, and just had it been like, yeah, the mold fucked up and did something weird. That's how the folklore happened. Like...
Yeah, I mean...
just could have done something cool.
Like, I mean, you could... Like, the Resident Evil games tend to do this, where it's like they'll have mystical elements, and then they'll science explain it away in a document that you find in a room that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you could have done that in 7. You could have said, oh, yeah, it's like the Wendigo from these folk tales, but what it actually is a normal human that got infected with Evelyn's mold. And everybody could have said... Everyone could have just said, oh, not interesting, I'm gonna just ignore that and move on and have fun, because...
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, 7's a good game. 7 was my second favorite Resident Evil game until now. And now it's 8.
It's third. Now it's third place.
It's third place, it is.
8... 7, 8, 9. Wait, no. 8, 8, 7.
8, 8, 7.
8, 8, 7.
It's not 8 twice. It's not
8, 7 is going to be my favorite Resident Evil game.
Actually,
I don't know how they're going to work that into the Roman numerals, but
actually, my favorite tweet that I've ever done was made after the announcement of the title of Resident Evil Village, where they did that thing they do where they put the number in the title with the Roman numerals. Because I figured after 7, you can't do it again because you can't put an extra I in evil. That would just look stupid. But then it's a village, so there's like 3 L's, 2 L's, and an I in that, so we can make that work with that. I was like, God damn it, you motherfuckers! So I made the joke that the next one will be called Resident Evil Gimmicks, except it'll be spelled with an IX instead of an ICKS, because that way it's 9, and I'm smart. And I made fun of Capcom, even though I really like Capcom. I like that.
Anyway,
if
we're gonna just keep on topic about enemy variety, is one of
That's a good place to start, yeah.
Is one of the things I really appreciate is a lot of the enemy variety is, like, plot-wise tied to the location you're in. Because the game is pretty much chunked up into, you're either in the village, or you're in one of the 4 lords' domain, and most, if not all of the enemy types are highly tied to the area you're in. Example, Heisenberg's factory is entirely the, like, mechanical corpse people he's making, and then Lady D's area is all of, like, the blood-sucked out people, like handmaidens that she had, that she just went, oh, you're garbage, I'm just gonna use you as, basically just a fucking
enemy fodder. Yeah, I'm gonna suck you and make you do shit for me, because I'm Lady D.
Moreau's didn't have that, which I think is a little bit of a missed opportunity. You could have had some weird fish people or something. Oh well.
You know what? I have to say I disagree, because I feel like the 2 sections that we'll get into in more detail later, but there's the 2 Lord domains, the 2 mid Lord domains, they're shorter than the other 2, and I feel like it's good that they did that because they didn't want to overbear the game too much. And I feel like if you made Moreau's section like longer and had more enemies, I feel like it would have just gotten in the way a little bit. I don't think Moreau's section needed to be too long. I thought it was the perfect.
I only think Moreau's section didn't need to be too long purely because I thought it was the most gimmicky in terms of gameplay.
Oh yeah.
I thought him swimming around and then you just have to stand on like the safe piece. I thought that was like That was really gamey.
It was
like, that
very
felt
gamey.
like it was... That, to me, was the moment where I'm like, okay, like, we're really doing one of these sections. Like,
and can I...
It's because it contrasts too heavily against Buenavito's section.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that is
Which
a
we
really, really fucking good section.
Which, yeah, we will
that
get
isn't
into why
very
that's
gamey.
so good. Yeah. I will say it is a little gamey, but it's the good kind of gamey, which we'll get into that later. But, I mean...
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this... See, you're criticizing, and yes, you're fair to criticize, but I think it's a testament to the game that the worst section in the game, which I think we both agree that's the worst section in the game, still has a lot of really good shit in it.
Yeah, like, I want to... all my criticisms are purely, like, that's, like, the only thing I see wrong with it. Otherwise, like, I really like the game. Like, the game is ironically an 8 out of 10. at the least.
Well,
at the least.
Like I said, I'm not going to fucking bog down my opinions with stupid numerical values, but I will...
I'm sorry, it's a VII out of 10.
That's still a number, it's just represented differently, you fucking twat. During my first session, like, my big thing was, like, if this is going to be like 7, I just want them to address the big problems with that game. If you're trying to beat 7, mostly 7, then just fix that, good enemies, and I'll be happy. And when the werewolf showed up, bit my fingers off, and can I say, I love the fact that they stuck to that. The fingers come off and they do not come back, except for one very specific bit, but after that they go away again. Yeah, no, I love that. Your pinky and your ring finger get bit off and they're gone for the whole game. It's great, and you're like an 8-fingered freak. But yes, no, and during my first section, it was pretty much very similar to 7, with some 4 thrown in, except I liked the enemy type. So far I was having, like, a perfect experience. Like, then you get to Lady D's section, and... then it becomes more like the remake games, or it's more centered around... Actually, no, I will say it becomes more like the remake games and then the best parts of 7, which is when... Well, not the best parts of 7, but the better parts of 7, where you're being stalked and you know that, like, oh, I'm not winning this fight, so I've got to run. Which is, like, those are the, like the more fun earlier sections of 7.
It's the gameplay formula of remakes like PlayStation, where... the tyrant runs, like, he just kind of, like, you know, stalks the corridors, and it's just, like, you're trying to complete puzzles and, like, environmental, you know, like, hazards and whatnot.
Yeah.
Whilst that's all happening.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of different opinions on this game. I've seen a lot of varying, like, thoughts and what have you. And I think some people have pointed out the fact that Lady D herself, and how she functions in the game... was a little bit, how should I put this? A little bit, like, too obviously an AI trying to figure out, like, player pathing, which I can understand. I personally feel like the game kept up the illusion for as long as it needed to. I feel like the Lady D section is a good, like, start to the game, simply because it's doing something that that people who have been playing the modern Resident Evil games understand. So it's a good intro to how this game functions, because the later sections are doing very different stuff.
Yeah.
So I actually liked the fact that she was a little bit similar to Mr. X and Tyrant and...
I don't hate the area.
Jack Baker.
It feels a little bit underwhelming, because I don't think it's as good as the Police Station and Tyrant combo. I think it's I just think it's a worse version of it.
I was more thinking that it was a worse version of specifically the first house in 7.
Oh, no, God, no. And you know why, actually? Is the destructibility. Right. The destructibility. The important part of Jack Baker is that guy is a fucking force in nature. He fucking walks through a wall, he will punch you through a wall, he will destroy his own house to get you.
Yeah.
Lady D, dead ass, will just walk in a straight line at you. And it doesn't feel right, because you can see from the very first, like, Lord, like, congregation meeting,
which was
you
an excellent
tell she's
thing.
very up herself, and she's like, she's verbose, and she's clearly at least above average intelligence. So when she's not, like, actually, like, you can tell that it's an AI, because they play her up to be intelligent, and then the actual like thought process of the AI is just follow creature.
Well, I wouldn't say intelligent, but she has her own motives and wants, and like she's a human being. Well, she has like
she was a human being.
You know what I'm saying. But so you're agreeing with me that like it's a worse Jack Baker?
Yeah, it's a worse Jack Baker situation because Jack Baker like he could destroy his own house and shit, and even though he's pretty much just going at you in a straight line, it's like. Because of those moments where occasionally he would just walk through a wall, it's just like, oh fuck, what else can this guy do?
They threw in a lot of cinematic flair for Jack Baker, which really worked. Especially given that was the early sections of the game where it was still, like, impressing upon the player the sort of, like, stalking gameplay that we hadn't ever really even been in any, like, Resident Evil game. Like, even the original 2... and 3. Those were more boss fight sections which you had the option to run away from if you wanted. They didn't stalk the way they do in the remakes. And, like, 7, that was, like, completely new. And I think that's a lot of, you know, what people are impressed with initially. Which, yeah, it's a little bit disappointing that Lady D is sort of just a dumbed-down version of that. But I'm personally okay with it simply because that was just the intro to the sort of structure of how the game's going to go in terms of, like, the Lord domains. And I felt it kept up the artifice, like, well enough in the earlier sections of that. But, we're talking about how Lady D just kind of walks at you in a straight line. Except for the first bit where she gets introduced in terms of the gameplay. Because you're in, like, a caged area. And, yes, she walks at you, but you can't do anything yet. So there's this sort of... Because she cuts your hand off while you're doing a lever, and you can't fire any guns because, you know, Ethan's not Chris. He can't just magic up a new hand. At least not until he's escaped from the dangers. And I thought it was nice the way that they impressed upon you a sense of urgency through the fact that your hand had come off, and there's this giant 9-foot vampire lady with blade hands coming at you. I thought that worked. That was good. I felt like
I thought that bit was good until you just have to, like, go to your left, make her run around a post, and then just, like slow jog away.
Well, yeah, but I didn't expect her to be, like, immediately... I didn't expect her to, like, get me the first time. I mean, Jack Baker didn't get me the first time. It took him a little bit before I'd gotten by Jack.
Mia did a better job than Jack.
Mia did a better job than Jack. Also, can I just say that there was also a bit which you missed where Jack Baker cut your leg off. I won't tell you how to get that scene, but you can get that scene, and it's really cool.
No, I've seen that scene, actually.
Oh, okay, never mind then. I accidentally got that scene in my first playthrough of the game. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's on stream. Well, it was on stream, but that VOD got deleted. And I died because I realized that I didn't realize I had to crawl to get my leg until it was too late. So yeah, I died.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. But yes. But I still like the Lady D section because the environment is really good. The vampire daughters are actually really fun, like little mini bosses that I enjoyed. And yeah, no, they get away from the werewolves, but I sort of like the slow shambling little like side ladies that come at you occasionally, like in the catacombs.
Don't forget about the gargoyle people.
They're a weird boss. They're a weird enemy type.
The weird, like, yeah.
Because you expect them to be a bit beefier than they actually are. Because you when you get them, you just get the sniper rifle. And you know that the sniper rifle's, like, it's gonna fuck at least a little bit. So you're like, oh, I need to use my sniper to take these guys out. Because they're at a distance and it does a lot of damage. And then later, more of them show up and they go down only after a couple of pistol shots. So I feel bad that I wasted my bullets, to be honest. They're very weak enemies. But yeah, no, I mean, I like them. Because they kind of make use of the fact that it's a first-person game instead of third-person. Because in third-person, you kind of never want to look up if you can help it.
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of awkward to do that. Yeah, you have to look up your own arse crack a little bit. No one wants to do that.
Yeah, like, to look up, they'd need to, in terms of, like, camera placement, they need to put the camera down onto the floor.
Yeah, it's weird.
So you're actually, you end up, like, being further away from the thing you're trying to look at.
Yeah, so whenever there is, like, flying enemy types in third-person games, even in third-person Resident Evils, I should say, they always make sure that they don't fly that high. They're, like, only hovering off the ground a little bit, which is like, if you can fly, why not fly a little higher? But that's fine. Actually, while we're talking about enemy types, I feel like we should just to segue into specifically how we feel about the gameplay of this particular Resident Evil, like the moment-to-moment core gameplay loop. How do we feel about that? The first-person shooting.
It feels very like, I don't know, it just kind of feels like just like a little bit of a less fluid version of RE2 makes, like the shooting and movement feels a little clunkier, because they have a lot of those moments where it's like they want the character model to be looking a certain way to start actually walking. So it's kind of like the Red Dead Redemption 2 thing people have the issue with, where it's like the animations like all need to look realistic, so the gameplay feels a little clunkier. I think they have the same thing in 8. It's not nearly as bad, though. Like, God, it's not nearly as bad, but it is slightly noticeable in some of the more, like, frantic moments, where it's like, I want full control of my character, and there's moments where it's like, you will push left, and there'll be a slight delay before Ethan starts shambling left.
See, I noticed this too, and I'm actually glad that you brought it up, because I wanted to talk about it as well, because I was actually going to go with a comparison that it plays like a less elegant Resident Evil 4 kind, where, because it's not like Resident Evil 7. In Resident Evil 7, the combat scenarios were either you were against one big guy who you can't kill, or it's a boss fight and you can kill him but it still takes a while anyway, or it's the molded, and at most you get 3 of those in one room. It's not a fucking horde fight like it is in RE4. So that's what I compare it to, except, as you say, a little clunkier, a little more, did you say shambly?
Just like a little bit, like just a little bit more of a shamble.
But I think this actually plays more to the game's strength, because it is trying to still be at least a little bit horror-y, and I feel like it's a bit like the Silent Hill thing, where it's like the protagonist isn't some kind of military expert.
He fell for my trap.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
Guess what? Guess what's in the prologue, Connor? The intro cutscene.
I know!
Ethan saying that Chris taught him military tactics.
Here's the thing. Formal education doesn't work on everyone, and I think Ethan Winters is one of those people who probably didn't do well in school. So
yes, but then why even bother bringing it up?
No, Capcom.
Because I think they only brought it up because they wanted to give a reason as to why Ethan knew how to use some of the more technical guns down the end of the line.
Like the sniper rifle and what have you.
Yeah, like the ones where it's like, alright, it's not immediately obvious how this works.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, I make the assumption that in a zombie apocalypse, I could just pick up a Remington and fire that at zombies. But I was thinking about this. I don't know, like, if I'm supposed to cock it after I put the shell in, or it'll already be primed. So I'm gonna click and nothing's gonna happen and I'm gonna get eaten in real life. So I don't know. You can't presume to know these things until you're actually in a situation where you have to fucking murder a zombie man with a shotgun.
But anyway, I think the gameplay is like, it's good for the setting.
Yeah,
like it feels like it feels a little bit weird to play at the start, but then like eventually it'll just become second nature to start going, okay, I'll need to press left like a microsecond earlier than I'd actually want to move left.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like the gameplay. I say that Resident Evil Village is my second favorite Resident Evil, and I say that because I feel like Resident Evil 4's core gameplay loop is better because it's more fun, and it is... I'd say that, like, in terms of the setting, like, the way that RE8's gameplay works for the setting that game's in, I'd say the same for 4, except I'd make the delineation that 4's setting is, like, a fucking action B-movie romp, which is way more fun to play, and I enjoy that, so that's why that game is still at the top of the list. And can I just say that, like, the distance between RE7 and RE4 in terms of like how I felt about those games, it was a fucking like football field difference of preference. But RE8 and RE4, it's more like a decently sized bedroom. It's more like a decently sized bedroom.
I was gonna say a jacuzzi with Lady D in the middle of it.
No, because it's not that close. Although I would like to be in it. I would like to see what that looks like. I reckon she'd hate that because it'd be like her knees would be sticking out in the water because she's so big. Like, I don't think a jacuzzi of normal size
I was
would
thinking.
work.
Visually, I was thinking when Mo hid Shamu in the middle of his fucking bar. Oh, not in the middle of the bar. Yeah, like in the basement.
Wait, sorry, what?
When you know Mo's Tavern, and he used to have the...
yeah.
Shamu.
Shamu, okay, you said it weird, I didn't even... They're on to us, get them back to SeaWorld! Yes, I know the joke you're talking about. That was the X-Files episode where Mr. Burns is an alien. Yes, that was a good episode. And it had Fox Mulder and his FBI had him in a fucking lying down in a sexy French man pose, and that was fun. Sorry, Simpsons reference. I can't help but let my brain enjoy it. Okay,
we're 35 minutes in. We haven't even talked about the giant PT.
I was gonna say that now that we've mentioned the setting a bit, we should probably talk about the setting and the characters and what have you. And I really liked the setting, and I thought the tone that they went with worked perfectly for it. Like, Gothic horror has never been specifically about scaring people. It's been most, like, for the best, artistic interpretations of, like, the Gothic horror setting is where they kind of celebrate how fun a lot of the design of it is, and I feel like this game does that.
Yeah.
I think
I agree.
I think
I like Gothic horror is like when I saw the first not trailers but first screenshots of the game, I was like, holy shit, they've this is like a complete not so much a 180, but like in terms of visual design, this is a lot more like over the top. Well, not so much over the top, but more like because like Resident Evil 7 is very like the lighting of it. Go and compare like the lighting of Resident Evil 7 to the lighting of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I swear to God, that is a copy paste. That is straight up a copy paste.
Also, I'd say slightly Evil Dead 2 as well.
That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, there's a chainsaw fight. God, I love the chainsaw fight. Can I just actually? I just want to quickly say before we move on in terms of the gameplay, if we're going to talk about RE7, which we can't help but talk about RE7 because it's important to the development of RE8. I'd say the one thing that RE7 unequivocally does better than 8 is boss fights. And I really like the Resident Evil 8 boss fights. I really do enjoy the Resident Evil 8 boss fights. But RE7's boss fights were honestly, probably the best in the series. And I'm including 4 when I say that. Because 4s are fun, but 7s are intimate and, like, fucking incredibly memorable. And that's very impressive given that, like, 3 of the boss fights in that game are with the same fucking guy. But they're very distinct, they're very intimate, and they're fucking, like, scary. They're fucking, like, horrifying, because it's like, oh shit, he's right there, and he's about to get me.
You can feel him breathing on you
for
most of the boss fights.
It's like, RE4's boss fights are fucking fun as well, but, like, I'm not worried, really. I'm just having a good time, and that's good, because that's what that game's trying to do. But what RE7's trying to do is harder, and they succeed. So, yeah, go RE7. But yeah, having said that, RE8's boss fights are still a lot of fun as well. They're very RE4-y. You actually mentioned it. Because I'd already finished the game when you started your first playthrough. I was actually doing my New Game Plus where you were playing your first playthrough. And you got to Moreau and you messaged me that it was very RE4.
That is probably the most RE4 boss fight.
You are correct.
Because the Alcina boss fight, like Lady D's boss fight, is like it's RE4 like it's gamey. It's you hit the weak spot, but like they put a lot into the spectacle of it. Like she's fucking destroying that like church area,
and also
that's something that RE4 never really went for because I maybe just didn't have the technology for it at the time.
I'd say the one that I'd most compare Lady D's to in terms of RE4 boss fights is The Thing, which yes, that's what it's called. It is a reference. where you're in those like cages that are hung above that giant pit, and it's chasing you, and the cages are falling with a time limit at the bit, because like the whole place is coming down around, and if you're not fast enough, you'll just fall into the pit with the thing, and yeah, gravity will just kill you. I'd say that the way that Lady D takes advantage of its difference in perspective is the way that she flies. You can't really do that in RE4 because we mentioned it before. It's kind of annoying to do flying enemies in third person. But no, RE7 takes advantage of that, and it's really good. And actually, we were talking about the settings. We should go ahead and dissect the characters themselves. And I'm more referring to the lords before we get to the human peoples. But yes, so
yes, the human characters. Call me a Godzilla fan, because I fucking hate all of them.
I disagree, but we'll get to that. So after the first werewolf fight, you move into the castles, and you're introduced to the 5 motherfuckers who are in charge of this land, 4 of which are like sub-bosses, which are like... your main goal throughout the game is dealing with each of them. And so... do it in order of their section. So first is Lady D, then there's Bienvento, I think is how you... There's probably a horrible mispronunciation. There's Salvatore Moreau, and my personal favorite probably Heisenberg. I really love Heisenberg. So yes, everyone's familiar with Lady D, and I just want to quickly say that I think the marketing of this game, as little as I interacted with it, was fucking perfect. Because everybody was obsessed with Lady D, and a lot of people probably bought this game specifically just because of Lady D. And then they're
getting pranked.
Yeah, look, maybe they did get pranked, but frankly, I'm glad I got pranked because I really liked the other fucking lords.
Is that to say, she wouldn't be able to carry the whole game anyway, so it's fine.
Not the version of her that we got, no. I imagine you could have made a game that was centered solely around Lady D, but, like, yeah, you would have had to do a little bit more character grease work, I guess. But yeah, no, Lady D does not compare to the likes of Jack Baker, to my mind.
No.
But yes, no, so yeah, as Lady D, who was, I will say, a lot of fun. Her character's a lot of fun to watch, the way she is, she's a big ego. Much like her stature, she is up her own arse a little bit. Heisenberg says it best. And you really get that in A, her mannerisms, and B, how she talks to people she considers lesser to herself. Even her own daughters in some scenes.
Yeah. You like one of the things I didn't get a lot of, but I ended up like watching clips of it online, was like, if you're being like particularly stealthy around the castle, you'll hear a lot of the conversations that they that Lady D has. I don't think I played that section right, because I just sprinted everywhere, because I figured I could just outrun her, which you can.
You can, yes.
Like, which I think is a bad design choice. You should definitely have to do some kind of, maneuver. Like, you shouldn't just be able to outrun her. Her legs are taller than you are.
Yeah, that's true. I was being very stealthy, however, I did fail the stealth at some... I was like, I want to get a better look at her, and that turned out to be a bad decision, and then I did have to run away.
Supposedly, now, I don't know if this is just a rumor or something, but if you stare at Lady D's arse enough, one of the daughters will jump scare you.
Look,
I don't know if that's true.
I don't know if that's true.
I respect that if that's true.
I believe that Capcom have the self-awareness to put something like that in there. They knew what the fuck they were doing when they made Lady D. Like, you could see her panties in a lot of the fucking marketing for this game. They're not idiots. They knew what they were doing. They knew what was going to happen. They probably didn't know the scope of it, but... they knew how people were going to react. Which I also think was another nice thing about the marketing of this game. The fact that there was a big titty mummy vampire made people realize that the tone of this wasn't going to be exactly just RE7. Because you can't have a big vampire mummy GF and also have it be like RE7.
Yeah.
Which is good. I'm glad that this game has its own
actually
identity.
Went out of their way to make RE8 less scary than 7. Which, because they said, according to their, like, survey and, like, marketing information, 18% of players didn't pick up RE7 because they said it was too scary for them.
Which is weird because, well, RE1 was ostensibly meant to be scary. I don't think it was scary, but it was trying to be.
I was about to say, I don't remember the last, Resident Evil game that's been, actually, I'm, scared, other than 8.
I always made...
Nice. Good job, guys.
I've always made fun of the series by saying that RE7 was the first actually scary Resident Evil game. Which, yeah, it's a little mean. I mean, I really like the fixed camera Resident Evils. I mean, objectively, I know for a fact that they're very flawed games, but I don't know, I find them fun. But no, they're not scary. They never were scary. I didn't grow up in the 90s, but I'm being completely genuine when I say I could not see myself getting scared of those games. I mean, I played RE3 when I was 6, and I wasn't scared of it then, so... I mean, I only played a little bit of it when I was 6. But yes, anyway, moving on. But yes, you mentioned the next part. You mentioned the fact that you mentioned the fact that RE8 was specifically trying not to be scary, and yet it has
the cute uwu socially anxious daughter of Mother Miranda, who plays with dolls all day, which is equivocally the little sister of the family, with Lady D being the big sister, Moreau being the abjected middle child, and then Heisenberg being the, rebellious teenager boy. Then there's little sister, who's not fun, hated her house, I hate her, and I hate her stupid birthmark that's turned into a giant scar. And I hate everything about that basement. And I hate.
And you hate it because it is genuinely the
best
most
section of the game.
The legitimately most actually terrifying moment in any Resident Evil game that's ever happened, including 7. I was not ready for it. And we're gonna go into spoilers, by the way. We're gonna be talking about spoilery things. I went into that basement. And when
came out a different person.
When my guns went away, what I was assuming the game was doing at that point was doing that extended puzzle section that they did in RE7, where it's like Saw, and that's cool because Saw's cool, and yeah, I'm okay with this. Yeah, puzzles, fuck yeah, I love me some puzzles. And then the lights went out, and I thought, oh, game's just, it's doing that thing where it's trying to be cheeky. It's probably going to be a doll. She'll go, bleh, and I'll go, yeah, okay. And then I'll keep playing the game, and it'll be fine. And then I went down the hallway, and there was intestines on the floor. And I kept going down the hallway.
I heard the cooing.
I heard the coos, and I was like, oh boy, some hallucinations, some auditory hallucinations. Those hallucinations were not auditory, Nathan. There was so much more than just auditory, Nathan.
Oh my god, she didn't take the morning after pill.
The fetus is actually both genuinely well designed, because it did make me piss myself. And I love that it actually does tie into the themes of the game, whilst also making sense in context, because it was a nice touch that when you go into that section and you enter that house, Resident Evil games have this thing that they do where it's at the beginning you'll have this key item that it's not for anything, it's just a bit of character building, and you carry it for the whole game and you never use it for anything except where you put in your family photo in the door to enter, because it asks you for something to do with memories or something, and
yes.
And it's a picture of your wife carrying a child, and the puzzle is you basically disassembling your wife to figure out how to escape this escape room.
It's an escape room.
And it's like, oh yeah, I see what you're doing. You're using the memory as a set piece, and that's a really cool thing to do, particularly with a character who doesn't get too much characterization, even in the 7th, even in the one before this.
Yeah.
And yeah, then you remember, oh yeah, there's a baby in that photo, isn't there? And then the baby ends up being the threat, and Jesus fucking Christ, is it genuinely one of the most effective set pieces in any game that I've played in recent memory. I never got to play PT, and I gotta say it is quite clear that the developers also thought it was a shame that Konami just deleted PT, because I would have liked to have played the game. This section is the closest you can get that's like a legal commercial method of playing PT.
Yeah, without like spending $1,000 on a PS4 that hasn't installed.
Or just playing the Unreal adaptation that someone.
Hey!
But yeah,
you didn't hear this from me, but Half-Life Alyx has a workshop now, and someone's attempting to remake the PT demo
that's
and
awesome.
that. And you know what? I'm not a brave enough person to play a VR PT.
Because you're a bigger pussy than I. So how? Because I walked down the initial hallway and I saw an outline and I went, oh fuck this, and turned around and ran away. I didn't even get a good look at it initially, so I can't imagine what you were going through during that section.
I was like, I made a point of when I saw when I noticed the first, like, locker had the first locker had nothing in it, I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, sometimes you open up stuff, there's nothing in it.
Yeah.
Then when the second one had nothing in it, I'm like, okay, that's strange. That's the second one in a row. And then I'm like, it's like weirdly, it's a unique prop. Like, someone had to make that specifically for this section. And I noticed you could walk in it and shut it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to use this at some point.
After
you go down the well and you hear, like, the crashing upstairs, I was just like, something is definitely going to come and I'm gonna have to use the locker. So I made a mental note. I'm like, okay, the closest locker to me is the one in, like, that medical room. So when I went down the hallway and I saw that outline, I'm like, okay, I'll be fine, I'm just gonna go to the locker. So when I found out that they lock the door to that bedroom, I was not happy. I was not a happy person.
Okay, you weren't a happy person, but, like, you got that opportunity to do that, though. You want to know what my thought when I opened, like, the third empty locker was?
What?
Ha! There's a lot of Mulligan cupboards in this section. Oh well, dum-de-dum-de-dum. And I was completely not prepared for the baby. Could you get around it the first time? Because all you have to do was loop one of the rooms. But then in the second part where it shows up, I just ran. I kept running until I was literally backed into the bedroom. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to get out of this without meeting assuming what is meant to be a representation of my child. And then I met a representation of my child. And then I became a part of a representation of my child. And I was like, good job, Capcom. Because I am pissing myself right now. The baby just...
I've heard criticisms of that section where it was like, it has the same kind of shoddy Alcina AI where, apparently when someone saw it and they went down the hallway, they just walked to that desk, made it walk around the desk, and then just walked past it.
You can do that. And
I think my experience with the section would have been ruined if I, was trying to play it, like, just that, efficiently.
See, here's...
Because you can hide under that bed.
Yeah, you can.
And that's a way... Like, being forced to hide from it is so much more intense than just, basically saying, you have bad AI, I'm going to abuse that.
Yeah, no, see, here's why I think that's a valid criticism for Lady D. I do not think it's a valid criticism for the baby. Specifically because, on a first playthrough... Okay, firstly, the fact that it just goes straight for you is okay because it's a fucking baby. Babies are stupid. They crawl straight at don't. I know what you're doing there, and I'm asking you to stop right now. Babies just crawl to shit that they want. So the way that it behaves is perfectly fine, and it's not distracting at all because that's how it should behave. Secondly, most people are going to be in a state of slight panic during that, because I was in a state of panic when it showed up. So the idea to like run circles around a table didn't come up as much as I just thought I need to get away, as far away from it as possible. And when you do that, like, your brain isn't trying to think, how do I get around this now? It's thinking, where do I put myself where it's not going to be able to see me? And that's hiding, and the game allows you to do that. There's the bed, there's all those lockers, there's those two options, but those are the options that work. It's a small section, and it should be small. It's a nice little vignette. And I think that the fact that the AI's pathfinding is a little bit dumb is actually also good for second playthroughs, because in second playthroughs, obviously the same effect is not going to be there, which it's a shame that like that's just kind of how the human brain works, is that, you know, we recall this shit and it's just not going to be as effective without the surprise there.
I'm going to fucking dab on that child in my new game playthrough. You kidding me?
I dabbed on the child. I ran around the desk like the guy did in my second playthrough.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. And I did make a point to actually enjoy the baby more. Like, in the first playthrough of that game that I did, I hid in the cupboard and I got to see his face. The second one, I made a point to go under the bed instead so I could see his feet. And yeah, he looks really cool from the bed because it's a much more cinematic shot, and also you get to see him like drooling and his tail bit as well. So I feel like if I was going to make an RE8 movie, I would have Ethan canonically hiding under the bed. I think that would make for a better shot. Because otherwise, it's
also that actually hiding under the bed is a really good like thematic option, because it's like that's what kids do.
Yeah, yes.
Kids hide under.
I didn't even think of that. That's a good point. Yeah. And yeah, if Ethan was a more interesting character, you could probably have made like the argument that this is a representation of like his insecurities as a father. But frankly, I don't think Ethan even knows what the word insecurity means, so I don't think he has that really.
He went up to the kid looking for the paternity test, to be honest.
But yes, okay, so that's and I gotta say that's the best section of the game, but I think the Lord herself is probably, of the four Lords, the least interesting. I still like her as a character. I think she fits and she works. Dolls have always had like a bit of like, not a massive role in gothic horror settings, but they are usually there, and I feel like she didn't outstay her welcome. Like, her bit was as long as it needed to be, and it was the most effective. Most effective set piece in the whole game. It was great. I loved it. But yeah, so moving on to the weakest set piece, but what I actually really liked as a character, we get onto Moreau's section, which, yeah, it is very gamey. Moreau's basically a big disfigured fish man, who's a reference to the creature from the Black Lagoon, which has always been an odd, like, referential point in history, because anybody that's looking at that movie from a modern lens is kind of not getting the intended effect.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so it's nice that we can reference that in ways where we actually can make it at least actually disgusting. Because Moreau's disgusting. He's horrible, and I love it. Moreau is, as a character, I love Moreau. We've been memeing on him for the last 2 weeks.
It's actually canon that the rest of the Lords... Like, it's implied that they all have PS5s, and they were going to get the PS5 copy of RE8, like, RE8 Village. Moreau has a PS4. That is canon. He literally says to Alcina's puppet face, I only have a PS4.
I identify with Moreau so much, it's scary. Not because I have specifically a PS4, just because I'm the fucking rat poor kid that, you know, everyone wants to make fun of a little bit, and doesn't get the nice stuff because he simply does not deserve it. And I love that the game...
Literally? Okay, he did do something wrong, but he literally did nothing wrong.
He literally did nothing wrong.
He was experimented on, like, all the other Lords. Like, he got Cadell experimented.
Yeah, they're all really Jack Bakers, really. They're all people who...
But everyone got something that, like, they can still pass as human. Like, everyone... Moreau cannot pass, he can't leave the village.
I'd say that Lady D can't pass for human either. Like, yes, she has a human figure.
She'll be a freak of Nate, like, she'll be a freak, and people will, like, make comments on the street, but no one's looking at that and going, okay, that's not human.
No.
You look at Moreau and that's not human.
9 feet is impossibly big. I don't think anyone's...
Is it the tallest guy? Who's the tallest person?
The tallest person was 7'8", I'm pretty sure. You can
7'8".
Yeah, 7'8".
It's really only 7'8".
7'8's fucking tall, dude.
No, it's not. Tallest person is 8'11".
Oh, that is very close to 9 feet.
That's close to 9 foot. That's Robert Wadlow.
I mean, Lady D was 9.5.
Jesus,
but that
Christ.
is that I was not aware.
Yeah, no. He. Oh my God! People have to be on step ladders to get up to his fucking height.
Imagine being that man's son.
That guy's shoe is... That is so big.
But anyway, back on topic. You know what I love?
Yes.
You know what I love the most about Moreau is the fact that the game itself makes a point to bully him as well. Like, once you're in the final sections of the games, you run into a room that's like the experimentation room where all the documents are kept, and they have a page for every single lord, and on each of them they make a point of saying like, oh, Cadu viability, such and such, and brain functions, such and such. Everyone has like either healthy brain functions or like excellently adaptable brain functions or something like that. Except fucking Moreau's, who they specifically make a point of saying is surprisingly low. Like, it's not enough that they have to say that he has low brain functions. They have to make a point to say that his brain functions are so low, it's scientifically an anomaly how low that they are. And I love it.
That's because pre-transformation, he used to be the village doctor.
Huh.
So he would have been intelligent. Yeah, he had Moreau's clinic. Don't you remember Moreau's clinic?
Oh yeah,
That isn't like a play. It wasn't like a play on words like hee XD, it's my clinic. No. He used to be the village's doctor.
I was under the impression that he was just kind of a nutty motherfucker that Mother Miranda was like manipulating for the sake of her experiments. I wasn't under the impression that he was like actually, because the diaries don't read that way.
No, what's it called? Alcina was brought into the village, like 1930s, but like she's the first one to get transformed.
She's also from royalty. She's a noble woman, which is a nice detail. I like that.
I don't. They honestly. The cat, Benevito, whatever. Yeah, like she's like the least interesting purely because like she doesn't get there's no when you're going through like the Lord's like areas, there's like usually like quite a few little like documents that just like give you information about them and whatnot. But like Benevito is just because it's just a house. There's some paintings like she's meant to be like the Weaver person from the Village of Shadows.
Which actually we didn't mention that, but I also think that like that whole intro cinematic is a great tone setter for the rest of the game as well. I'll just say that if you're interested, YouTube it. It's on YouTube, so continue.
But otherwise, there's not like she doesn't get much like character building, and I think actually like her section's the best, but at the same time, it has, I think, the worst, like, visual storytelling in terms of, like, her character.
I wouldn't say that, necessarily. I'd say it's just the fact that, her section, like, she as a character gets overshadowed by something else, but...
It's focused to a fault, almost.
Look, I should say that there are documents that you probably missed, because there is backstory there. She was a shy child whose mother died. That's why she talked to the dolls and didn't talk to anyone else. It was a manifestation of her yearning for a mother figure in her life. And her dad consensually sent her to Mother Miranda for the sake of, she's like, she's the village queen, essentially. So everyone's like, oh, let's see what she'll do. And afterwards, she came back and she was all like, she was talking to the doll obsessively now, because obviously the doll was more than the doll now. It's implied...
Supposedly she talks to the gardener as well.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. But yes, they make a point of implying that, like, the father also then gets murdered by the dolls, and like his essence is put into a different one, and she just becomes obsessed with her doll making, what have you. But yeah, you're right, she is definitely the least characterized of all of the lords. But I'd say it is there. It's just a shame for her that like the best thing about her section isn't her.
Yeah, it's like yes, but it's like
I'm okay with that.
We got something. We got something good out of it. So
yeah, I mean, I still liked her bits in it. Like the doll hide and seek little mini game was fun. I thought it was a visually nice moment, because all the dolls, like, the longer that you're not finding her, the dolls get more aggro, and there's like that sense of urgency that I thought was really well implemented, because nobody wants to get stabbed by a shitload of dolls. I was not scared of Chucky when I was a child, but I still don't want to get stabbed by a fucking Raggedy Ann if I can avoid it. But yeah, anyway, we're talking about... See, that's the thing. We're talking about Moreau's section. Being a V2's section is just so good that we fucking, wordlessly...
We just shit all on Moreau again.
We did.
Just shit on Moreau again.
Because, the best thing about his section is his character and his boss fight. The bits before that are mostly just, weird first-person platforming sections that aren't even really platforming. It's mostly just timed puzzles.
Yeah.
Which, I thought it was still fun because they make a point of having, Moreau's big fish body jumping about. And it's not the same kind of urgency that you get from the Being a V2 section with the dolls, but it's still nice to be like, oh, look, there he goes. There's the big fish. I also love the fact that, during one of the sections of that part, when you walk over one of the planks, he says, what does he say? He says, I'm the best, and he doesn't even really seem too convinced of it himself. Which is...
Yeah, I remember that. He says, I'm the best, and jumps through the air.
Yeah, and I was like, really? Really? I mean, you certainly look like you're having fun, but I don't buy that you actually think that. Because, he spends most of...
When you first see him, he's watching romance movies and eating cheese. And apparently that's most of his day-to-day life.
Not even good cheese, though. It's fucking... It's the sliced stuff that you're getting, the little plastic sheets as well. He's just eating them one by one.
Vomits everywhere.
It's really sad. Yeah, he does vomit everywhere. And he specifically asked you to not be cruel. But yeah, that boss fight was also...
I think he's just, he's my favourite lord purely because... He contrasts so heavily against all the other ones.
He does. He is very... Yeah.
Everyone is they have a confidence to them, with the exception of not Angie.
Well, I'd say that she still does. It's just, it's manifest...
Angie has confidence.
It's manifested in her tools. But yeah, no, she as a person does it. Look, her character is her dolls. Let's just be frank about that. And that's fine. That's okay. But yeah, no, Moreau is very distinctly you almost pity him. I know I did. Yeah. I just kind of felt bad. Although when he did Fishify and we actually got to fight him proper, I was absolutely about putting that little shit down. And it was a good boss fight. So you do that, you kill Moreau, and then you get to my personal favorite of the Lord. You get to the fucking Frankenstein section. You get to the factory, where you don't meet Heisenberg because you've already met him, but you run into him again, and he has a proposition for us, Nathan. Oh, yes, he does. Oh, yes. He's not too happy with Mother Miranda's plans for the lot of them either, and he would like to get rid of that
rebellious
bitch,
teenager boy,
as he so eloquently puts multiple times. It's always a good way to measure someone's immaturity is how often they refer to a woman they don't like as a bitch, specifically. Because I've met women that I wasn't particularly fond of either, but I don't think I've ever genuinely called a woman a bitch in my life. Because
bitches are very, I'm big man, you are woman.
Yeah, you just feel...
insult.
Yeah, I only ever use bitch for a very specific joke. I feel like the people that are worth knowing and talking to in this universe are the people who have only said bitch in those contexts. Because I've known you a long time, and you've also... I've never seen you use bitch in any context other than I'm making a specific kind of joke.
Yes.
So yeah, let's just take a moment.
It's got underhanded misogynistic tones to it.
So let's take a moment to just congratulate the fact that we aren't complete dickheads. Well done, us. Good job, you as well. Good job. I'm clapping, by the way.
Moreau feels appreciated.
Do you identify with Moreau now?
Yes.
Okay.
Eating cheese and romance movies. What a fucking combo.
But yeah, no, Heisenberg is a Nicolas Cage character, and I love it. I love his lines. I love the way he speaks. I specifically, and I know that you do too, because you specifically said the same line that has been replaying in my head since I've seen it for weeks now, of just, lady, supersized bitch, ugly ass cycle doll, and the demonic freak. I love that line. I occasionally just rewatch
Lady
that
D has the looks, But my god, Heisenberg's got the swag.
Oh, he's got so much swagger. And can I just say, I've heard some people be critical of that section in general, like, just because of, visually speaking, it's definitely less interesting than Lady D's section.
Factories don't make good game, because they're all one color.
However, having said that, I do...
There is a good reveal in it, though. When you see, like, the extent of his army, that is a fucking cool reveal.
No, yeah, I'd say it has a similar sort of vibe as, like, the later sections of RE4, where it's like, now the monsters are getting serious. It isn't just villagers with pitchforks anymore. These are actual
My fun fact for you, Connor, is, although I say Moreau has done nothing wrong, technically speaking, Heisenberg is actually the one who's done the least wrong, because apparently there's an entry, like a diary entry somewhere, that Heisenberg makes an effort to only use corpses. He's never actually taken villains.
Yes, I was also aware of that. However, where I disagree with you there is that I don't think a character's right and wrong exists exclusively in their actions. I think it also exists in their intentions. And Heisenberg's
to kill
intentions...
Miranda is not a good person.
Oh, Miranda's the worst. Yeah, she's the worst of all of them, obviously. But Heisenberg wants to use a child to kill a woman. There's no way you turn that to make it good.
Based.
Oh, yeah, it's based as shit. I love it. And if I was Ethan, I would have been like, yeah, fuck babies, let's murder this motherfucker. And it would have been a buddy cop film for the rest of the game.
If Ethan was a smarter individual, we could have had a very different ending to that game.
But yeah, no, I really liked seeing... Yeah, you're right, the extent of his creations. And yeah, it was very Frankensteinian, which I thought was fun. Because whenever people make references to Frankenstein, the Frankenstein story, they always specifically go for the monster. They never go for the man. And for this, they
never go for the guy the book's named.
Yeah, exactly. And with this one, they do. That Heisenberg is very clearly a Frankenstein. This settings version of Frankenstein. This interpretation, and it's really well implemented. Heisenberg he's cocky, abrasive, and yeah, he's got his own intent, and he's not going to let anyone get in the way of it. And he's a good reflection of the main villain of the whole game. He's a he makes a point of saying that Miranda only sees family. She confuses family with experiments. Yeah, and he's doing the same thing in a way where he's using.
He's very much the what's it called, son of Miranda. Ironically.
Yeah, no, exactly. He wants to take family and use it as a weapon against something. He's doing exactly what Miranda's doing, and he's too self-confident to see where he's going wrong. And it's great. I gotta say, I'm really impressed with how Capcom have turned their ability to write decent characters and decent story around, because you play every Resident Evil before 6, and the best RE stories before 6 were the ones that were self-aware and knew that they were shittily written and just have fun with it instead. But RE7 and RE8 are well-written games, and it's weird to say that about Resident Evil games, but it's true. They're well-written and they have decent characters now. And I think Heisenberg's a good example of that. And
yeah, my only real issues with the game is I want to know more about the world, and I feel like a lot of the Ethan Winters and Chris and Mia shit kind of gets in the way of what I think is a more interesting area. I want to know more about I want to know the family dynamics. What the hell does Thanksgiving look like in that village?
Okay.
Do they get together? Whose house do they go to? Surely they go to Alcina's house, right? It's just the nice area, and isn't a hazard.
She's the host. She's absolutely the host of Thanksgiving.
But at the same time, I don't think Heisenberg would I think he'd try and say, nah, let's go to Donna's house. Donna's house is nicer. I think he'd try and play that angle.
Yeah, it's more homely.
It's just because yeah, he's nah, it's more homely, but he's only saying that not because he likes Donna that much, but just because he hates Alcina more.
Alright, I've got good news for you, Nathan. This game's absolutely getting DLC. And you know how you said you wanted to know more about the family dynamic?
Yeah, I want to know more about the family
Resident Evil 7's DLC, for the most part, was all about the family dynamic. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the angle that they go for with the DLC for 8 as well. And I I will probably play at some point RE8's DLC. Probably not immediately because I don't really like spending full price on DLC, but we'll see. We'll see when we get to it. All right. Mother Miranda herself, I think we should just go over really quickly because honestly, as like I think she is decently implemented into the game. I think she's probably the least interesting, I guess. I don't know. She kind of just has the most like straightforward villain motivations.
Yeah, it's kind of like, ironically, for a shapeshifter, she doesn't really have anything that's like any character that's set in stone.
And actually,
it's like she just wants to bring her kid back.
That's it. And
that's like it's the same plot as Ethan, except
she mirrors Ethan in a way. Yeah.
But it's kind of like that's kind of it.
Yeah, no, it is kind of it. But I should say that like I really liked the leading sections before Mother Miranda's big boss fight because like okay, we're gonna get into like spoilery territory here, but yes, after you fight Heisenberg, which by the way was the best boss fight in the game, I think you agree with that as well.
Yes, that when Chris comes in and he says, "Hey, keep your head, keep off the radar," and then gives you a like battle tank mech to go and fight big machine
with
Gross
a
Heisenberg.
giant chainsaw strapped to it.
I was just like, okay, this is... I was like giggling the whole time. I was like, this is fucking insane.
The game had earned that moment because every section up until now had been shitty little Ethan scrapping his way through each section, and now he's got a leg up now. He's found a big fuck off piece of equipment, and he's gonna have fun with it. And it was fun. It was fun. I had a great time with that section. And then after that, he fucks off, which we'll get into that later. But yeah, and then you play as Chris for a bit, and then I think some people were initially worried about that because they thought that's how it would stay. The game makes a point of pointing out that you now have like Heisenberg's treasure item now, so I knew that we were gonna get back to Ethan after Chris because why would they give you that if you can't like sell it at some point? So I wasn't worried, but I also want to point out that I feel like the game did definitely earn that moment, and it was also a good indicator that like it was comparing Ethan to like Chris, who Chris is he is a capable presence.
He is a shred field.
Yeah, no, he is, and that section was a good indicator of.
I actually would have respected the game a lot if, like, when, like, werewolves and shit grabbed you, if, like, Chris had, like, unique animations of him just punching the motherfucker off.
He did! You didn't see any of those? Yeah, no,
No, I mean, I never got grabbed. Like, I'm Chris Shredfield. I've got an AR.
I got grabbed a couple times, and not every time, but some of the time, he would just punch werewolves off of him. And yeah, it was like, oh, yeah, this is Chris. And yeah, it's a good indicator of, like, yeah, Ethan, this whole time, he's not a fucking stupid puncher-bolting badass. He's a guy who, yes, has probably had some military training, but can military training fucking prepare you for 9-foot-tall mummy vampire milkies and literally Magneto? No, the answer to that is no. Except for Chris, who's been through this shit fucking several times at this point. So it was a nice...
This is like his average Monday.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a nice change of pace, and I did appreciate... this is probably the most fun I've ever had playing Chris.
Truest.
Yeah, so it... actually... I mean, I do like the... Not the original Resident Evil, but like the remake one on the GameCube. That one was good. I enjoyed playing Chris on that. But, that game still has flaws.
But yeah, that section is like, they just give you
an
AR-15 with like 500 million rounds, and they just basically go, alright, we're just gonna turn off spawn limits.
Actually,
have fun.
I use the pistol for a lot of that section. I gotta say, the pistol that Chris gets is really good. But yes, no, well, I happen to like pistols. I'm honestly not big on assault weapons in like survival horror games. So I very rarely ever use the TMP in a Resident Evil 4 playthrough. When we streamed it, I didn't use the TMP.
No.
Just like Magnum, shotgun, sniper, pistol. That's all I ever feel like I need.
The holy quad trinity.
Well, it's a trinity, and then you also have your pistol because you need just the go-between. Also, okay, there's the trinity, and then there's
Softer.
Joseph. then Joseph is the pistol. He's just there to have a good time. I don't know where I'm going with this metaphor. But yeah, and you do that section, and then some story stuff happens, then you fight Miranda, and yeah, it's a decent boss fight. I thought it was a decent conclusion to the game, but as a character, she's a little bit underwhelming. So I feel like now we should transition for, like, the final part of this, like, review podcast that we're doing. Just talk about the human characters and the story of Resident Evil 8. I'm very curious. How did you feel about the story overall? I'm curious as to...
I like the story, but I'm gonna be honest. I've seen a lot of Ethan love, and, like, they think that the character being, like, really stupid is kind of, like, fun. I think that it kind of works for Resident Evil Village, but I feel like it's more of a band-aid than it is, like, an actual, like, important part of it. I think... not any other character, but, like, just someone with a little bit more life in them could have done it better.
Then, I'm afraid, Nathan, I'm gonna have to be one of those people that have been annoying you, because I actually love Ethan Winters. I love him. He's adorable.
And I'm done.
And he's done.
I'm done.
Alright, no,
I'm done.
Okay, we'll each say our piece. I really like Ethan because, you're right, he is fucking... I'd say a Band-Aid is actually a good thing to compare him to. Because, yeah, he's effectual to a certain point. But I feel like his ties with the villain is, I think it's obvious, but it is well structured it's well implemented into the structure of the game itself, and I feel like the fact that both RE7 and RE8 have been about family, I'd say Ethan is a good representation of that. He's the doting father who, yes, is a bit fucking stupid, all things considered, but all he really wants is what's best for his family, and he goes out of his way, even though he knows he's not prepared for this shit, to do his best. And he says really shitty, dumb one-liners that don't work, because this is a man who isn't mentally equipped to deal with this, doing the best he fucking can. Like, yeah, they're not good. He's not Leon. He's not as prepared to act as chill as Leon can, but he still makes the effort because he knows if he doesn't, he's giving up, essentially. It's a representation of that. And maybe I'm looking too much into it by saying that, but I don't think I am. He's a guy, and he's not capable, but he's trying, and I think that comes across really well. And I thought he was really engaging as a character, even if, yeah, you're right, he's very dweeby.
Call me Moreau, but that last point made me vomit.
I
find Ethan engaging in the same way that having your head pushed into a sanding iron is engaging. Where it's like, I kind of have to engage because this hurts. Like, there's something so almost like just poetic to how much I hate it when Alcina is on her deathbed and she's saying, "Damn you, Ethan Winters." And then he just says some fucking stupid one-liner. And it's just like, it doesn't have like the swagger and like the knowing like self-awareness of when Leon does it. So it just comes across as like just like, oh, we should put dialogue here.
Well,
rather than like, this is what the character would do right now. Because I honestly think Ethan would just have a sigh of relief. Just like a, holy fuck, I lived that. Holy shit.
I don't know, I don't agree. I feel like Ethan was trying to maintain that delusion of... I feel like the second that, like, Ethan stops suspending his disbelief is the moment where he can't function anymore, because the second that he admits the fact that he's just not ready for this, like, the fake bravado that he had that has actually been working enough up to this point just goes away. If that makes sense. You know what I mean?
I kind of get what you mean.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
It's a brave face. He's putting on a brave face. And and you can see the cracks, and I really like that you can see the cracks. Like, I feel like a good example of one of the lines which probably definitely made you roll your eyes is after he kills the last vampire daughter, of just him saying, "I hate bugs." Like, that's meant to be some big, badass sentence. And I think deep down...
The one that broke me... I want to hear this. Pull up the ship and he says, "Oh, look, a big cat." I nearly F4'd the game out of that one.
Oh, yeah. Where he's like, "Oh, that's a big catch." Yeah, that was fun. Because I love that, because that's in the middle of, like, the fucking running away music is still going. This is still meant to be a dramatic moment. And yeah, I agree, that one was probably a little egregious.
It just fucking... it rips through the tension. Like, what the fuck?
I feel like that section rips through its own tension, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? That, like...
Low-key was ready for Moreau to jump out the water and say, "I'm a real boy!"
Okay, but getting away from Ethan for a bit, I also want...
Thank fuck.
I also want to say that I think Chris works well as a support character, because with the worst of the Resident Evil stories, they always try to center him as your main, like, through line for the story, which doesn't really work because I don't think there's any human alive right now that can relate to Chris. There's one SAS guy who I think he thinks he can, but he
thinks he's Chris.
He thinks he's Chris, but no one can be Chris because no one has murdered giant monsters with that
punched boulders.
With his or punched boulders, yes, or at least not with any level of success.
No one is, like, as thick-headed, jarhead American as to punch a boulder and think that was, like, an intelligent decision given the circumstances.
I had a friend who, I had that one bonus section in Street Fighter 2 where you punch a car.
Yes.
He wanted to see how doable that was, so he punched a car. Punching a car is fucking hard, dude, so I can't imagine a boulder would be any better. Especially since boulders are, like, slightly jagged as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought his inclusion was, like, it was good, because as a support character, the fact that he's so capable, is, that role he's good at filling. Like, he's like...
You don't question it when Chris shows up, like, later, after, like, Moreau had fucking smashed his little hideout, because it's just like...
Because of course,
Chris,
yeah.
He probably just fucking punched Moreau in the face.
He probably, like... He probably was about to kill Lady D at some point, but then just didn't because something more pressing happened, and we just happened to do it for him. Like, that's what Chris is. He's like the Pitch Black of the Resident Evil. I like... Pitch Black, Vin Diesel, he was a support character, and that works because he was too capable to be a main character, which is proven when they did a sequel... called Chronicles of Riddick, which was terrible because nobody buys Vin Diesel actually having any kind of threat that could kill him. Like, he works better as, like, a morally ambiguous figure. And, yeah, that's pretty much what Chris is. And it works.
The wild card.
And, lastly, and this is going to be, like, a big spoiler, I want to talk about the twists and the ending of the game. Because this is where the story gets very, very, very... it gets very zany. It's a lot more zany than I was expecting. And I personally thought it worked really well for the way that the story had been building up to that point. How do you feel about that?
That's fair. I think it's like... I think it's I think the way they delivered the Ethan Mold thing was a little bit of a... It felt a little bit like... Oh, actually, it was all a dream thing. It felt a little bit, like, understated, where it's just like, Jack actually kills you there. And it's just
I would be inclined to agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that... Okay, we should probably summarize before we, pick it apart.
Go in on it.
That Miranda just flat out pulls Ethan's heart out. After when they first meet face to face. Well, second time they meet face to face.
You beat Heisenberg, Miranda shows up, says pretty much like, you're not gonna win, and then just rips your heart out.
Yeah, and like, Ethan's dead. And it's like, I knew he was gonna come back because this is a video game, and obviously Ethan was gonna come back. But, it's revealed, and I think it's a nice reveal, Evelyn shows up in like some kind of weird dream sequence. That, you were dead the whole time. You were dead since 7. Jack, stand for
I at least appreciate that it's foreshadowed.
I do. I appreciate that as well.
Because, like, Alcina makes a point to say, the blood tastes a little bit stale, and it's like, it's a bit of a weird thing to say to a live person.
You could almost say moldy. It's moldy blood. I'm sorry.
I think
Nathan.
if she said the blood tasted moldy, that would have been unhappy.
Yeah, that would have been too much.
That would have been like, okay, fuck you.
But yeah, no, because like Evelyn herself makes a point to say, don't you think it was weird how much punishment you've been taking? 'Cause yeah, it explains a lot. It explains why It explains why Rose is so special, first off. It explains why we're able to do as much as we can and still, you know, stand up afterwards and not just be a crippled,
I was about to say,
withering
Ethan
thing.
takes way more punishment in this than compared to 7. Like, 7 you have limbs cut off, but like, straight off the bat, you have limbs cut off and, like, things consumed of you, and fucking Heisenberg just fucking impales you when you first see him.
Yeah. It's great. I love it. I love that that's a recurring joke now, that Ethan is just a fucking slut for punishment. But yeah, so it's revealed that he's been dead the whole time. And sorry, my throat's getting a little hoarse now. Fuck me. Do you want to talk?
1 hour 30. Come on. Alright, so anyway. Yes,
thanks, Nathan.
Ethan's made of mold. So he just gets back up, says, I don't need a heart, I'm made of mold. And goes to kick Miranda's ass. He does it successfly, fucking somehow, by doing his little short jogging maneuvers to dodge all of her witch attacks. Then the big mega mycete thing comes out the ground, and Chris, being, you know, Chris, has already planted a bomb on it. Says, come on, we can do this, you can get out, you can live.
So Ethan starts crumbling the minute Miranda dies.
Yeah, Ethan starts turning into the same, like, little crystal things that everyone else turns into.
The scientific term is calcifies.
And then Ethan then just goes to Chris, alright, you know what, just give me the, like, he does a little switcheroo. He gives Chris the child, he gives a rose to Chris, and takes the trigger to explode the bomb, and then goes in and sacrifices himself. He
has his one actually convincing action hero moment, and it's his demise.
Yeah.
Ostensibly.
Well, his demise.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, you don't see the explosion or anything like that. It presumed it's happened, but at the same time, every piece of media, right? If I don't see that MF getting put in the ground, is he really dead?
And even then, it's not a guaranteed thing.
Yeah.
See, I really like this as an ending. I think it's a good ending for that story. However, I am slightly worried that we are going to get into RE6E territory.
I was about to say, because then they have the prologue of the game, which shows Rose grown up. She's wearing the jacket that Ethan gives baby Rose, and then she's got the graveyard of Ethan, putting flowers down, saying, you know, sorry I missed your birthday, blah blah blah. And then a secret agent shows up and says, hey, you know, come on, Chris needs you, didn't you hear him? And then she makes a point of saying, you have no idea, like, Chris doesn't even know what I'm capable of, so next RE8, not like RE9, can fucking go anywhere.
It's left me
a lot of them bad directions.
Yes,
but one of the directions is that you control Ethan's corpse because he's mold.
Corpse, cute.
So you can corpse puppet someone, and that's horrific.
I think the obvious direction is you play as Rose,
and you have weird powers, and then it's no longer a horror game. They now made a hero shooter.
I mean,
and
Rose
is a hero.
So long as it's not too stupid, I think I'd be okay with that. But yeah, I think it was a good ending.
If it wants to be stupid, at least like go over the top.
Do a 4. You know what I mean? Do a 4. Like fully commit to 4. Yeah.
Like, look, if it's too stupid, as long as they commit to how stupid it is, I'm fine with it. And like, as long as it's fun.
So long as
it's fun.
Long as it doesn't take its own story too seriously. Because the great thing about 4 is that it was just a side story in the universe. You're saving the president's daughter. Excellent. I love it. So have Rose save the president's daddy instead.
No, the president's daughter, and they can be in lesbians with each other.
Yeah, everyone seems to be, like, reveal lesbians, I think, should be a new TV trope.
I mean, honestly, I think in terms of video games, the worst one was probably, honestly, the worst one was, Soldier 76 with Blizzard.
Yeah.
Because that was the whole, when, what is it, like, Long Live, like, Thailand thing happened?
Yeah.
It was, like, in the middle of all of that, they're like, Soldier 76 is gay.
Oh my god.
And it's like,
oh my god.
That is so obvious you guys are doing that just to fucking, like, try and divert attention away.
Holy shit, Blizzard did a Kevin Spacey.
Yes, they did.
And, like, they didn't even have to molest anyone to do it. That's really impressive.
Yeah. But anyway, that's not RE8.
So, yes. Overall, I really liked the game. I thought that...
Yeah, that's my favorite Resident Evil game so far.
My second.
And it's been a series I've just kind of been like, yeah, like, I can see the appeal, but it's not really for me. But now I'm like, you know what? I'm on board now. They've got me hooked, and I think that's given the series history, that's a bad place to be.
Oh yeah, no, you're gonna feel the disappointment. Except for you, it's not gonna be 6. It's gonna be something else, and we'll see what it is. But we're not there yet. 6, fucking, that is one of the worst games I've ever played. That was a disappointment. But yes,
I can't wait to be a boomer and a better game comes out than 8, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, come on guys, 8's fucking great, mate. And you see this Moreau character.
Yeah. Oh, and there's actually, before we go, one last thing that we should mention. This game's merchant was surprisingly well implemented. Like,
yeah, because he's actually like part of the world.
Yeah, and
he's actually like he's not just like a guy that's there in like the middle of everything.
No, because I think that, like, I should say that I don't have a preference for of the two merchants. I don't have a preference between the two. RE4 merchant works really well, specifically because it's funny that nobody mentions this weird pirate voice guy, and I think that's really funny, and that fits that universe. And RE8 merchant is really fun because he is a character and he's your mate and he helps you, and that's really interesting and engaging, and it's different, so it's not egregious. Yeah. So I don't have a preference. If people push me for a preference, I'm not going to give them one. I'm going to say fuck you. They're both my boys. I love both of them. People who say that RE8's is better because he's an actual character are missing the point of 4, and they're idiots. And people who prefer 4's and say that RE8's merchant is stupid because he is a character and he shouldn't be, they're also stupid for different reasons. They're both babes. Fuck you. That's my opinion on the merchants. Thoughts? It's really important that I get that out there. That was really important.
Fair enough.
I say that.
My favorite thing about the RE8 merchant is honestly like, and a lot of RE8's character design is just like so many unique body types.
Yeah. Everyone's distinct.
It's refreshing, you know what I mean?
I wouldn't say it's refreshing because RE4 also had a lot going on.
How many years ago was RE4, Connor? Let it go.
15. No. Shit, 17, I think. Fuck you, it's a good game. Why should I let it go if it's still good? Fuck you, shut the fuck up. Midget Napoleon. But anyway, so thanks for listening if you've stuck by with us this long. Which, by the way, why the fuck did you do that, you stupid bitch? That's a joke. That's a joke. Please watch the whole thing.
Please.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. You're all lovely, and I appreciate the fact that you've stuck with us and listened to our dumb opinions on Resident Evil 8. I've been Connor.
Thank you.
I've
been a fellow Moreau appreciator, alias Nathan, but only on Mondays.
Okay, now it's time to sing the song. Ethan!
Just give it up, Winters!